Almond successfully accomplishes his mission of collecting threatening letters. On the other hand, when Aileen awakes, she finds a beautiful dress with matching shoes and accessories from Claude laying on her side table. Because of the new dress, Aileen changes her makeup, hairstyle and perfume but gets slightly late for the party. As she arrives at the party with her father, they see every woman talking about a new skin toner from Oberon Company, which is revealed to be Eileen's company under one of her friends' names. However, Eileen's plans to boost their sales by pitting women against each other turn out to be a successful tactic. Watching her father happy makes Aileen anxious that something bad is about to happen. Suddenly, Isaac arrives and informs Aileen that he has all the proof about the threatening letters, but he also has bad news. Lilia is currently missing. Aileen remembers that in the game, she was the one who kidnapped Lilia, but the situations are different here. Moreover, Claude has sent Marcus with the knights in training to the domain of the Demon Lord. The story continues as in the game, and Cedric captures Aileen for kidnapping Lilia. On the other hand, Beelzebub patrols around the domain and encounters Lilia on the way. He takes her to Claude, where Claude asks Lilia how she entered the barrier without anyone noticing. Lilia responds, "What barrier?" Claude realizes she has a strong resistance to magic due to her connections with the Holy Sword Maiden. Claude orders her to leave the place, but Lilia refuses to leave and shows her concern about him, saying she feels bad for him. Claude gets annoyed and asks if she is concerned, even as the soldiers of the Imperial Palace surround the domain. Lilia says it was all misunderstandings due to those threatening letters. However, Claude reveals he knows that she wrote the letters herself. Lilia says she does not have any other choice as Aileen had plans to kidnap her. Suddenly, Claude starts feeling dizzy and numb. Lilia notices this and attempts to console him. That's when Beelzebub stops her and asks her what she did to Claude, touching her in the processing, making him feeling dizzy and numb as well. Seeing this, Claude shouts at Beelzebub not to touch her. He realizes it's the power of the Holy Sword Maiden doing this to them. Lilia says she only wants to get along with Claude and that she is sure she can make his wish come true. Claude sends her back with his magic, saying Aileen is much cuter than her. Meanwhile, Cedric keeps questioning Aileen about Lilia, but he does not have proof that Aileen has kidnapped her. When Aileen keeps declining and starts provoking him, Cedric becomes forceful and aggressive with her. Suddenly Claude arrives at the ball by breaking the ceiling but restores it instantly. Claude warns Cedric that he sent such a paltry number of soldiers to take him down, but if he keeps acting thoughtlessly, Claude will destroy the country in an instant. Claude then tells Aileen to finish the sighing, saying he is not here to escort his brother's fiancée. Cedric becomes shocked and asks Aileen if she really has not kidnapped Lilia. Aileen shows him the threatening letters Lilia received. These letters were written on the stationery made by the Lombard Company, and the stationery comes in 20 pages. The rose design is cut out after the stationery pad is glued together. She overlaps the threatening letter with the invitation letter she received from Lilia, revealing the two letters are from the same set. After that, she gives the letters to Cedric and dances with Claude after signing her engagement dissolution. Later that night, as Claude drops her at her house, Aileen thanks him for everything he has done. At the end, when Claude is about to leave, Aileen remembers how Claude became mad in the game and lost all faith in humanity after getting betrayed by the only human he has trusted since he was young. The next day Keith wakes up to Aileen greeting him while he's in bed, then Beelzebub puts a knife to his neck. Keith asks them what are they doing there and why are they outside of the barrier. Aileen says you're doing something bad and not telling Claude. Aileen says it was strange that he stayed quiet about the embezzling of money for so long and she looked into it and that she found out that he was selling demons. Aileen also shows him that she bought the land that Claude's domain resides in. Then she talks about how Lilia and how her sword maiden powers won't affect Claude's human form, but she can easily defeat him if he awakens his demon form. Then she mentions that in Legends the Demon Lord will awaken as a dragon when he can no longer contain his negative emotions and becomes king of all demons. She then says this can be triggered by one of his most trusted aides, Keith, betraying him. Keith realizes this and thinks about how Claude said his life when he was 5 and he fell into a garden pond while playing around and almost drowned. But Claude could have abandoned him, but he used his demon powers to save him, leading to Claude being eventually exiled years later. Keith says he didn't want Claude to give up on humans completely and wanted a day when he could obtain human happiness. He says that's what he believed, but humans are much dirtier than he thought. Then he tells them about how a human who sold them the land wanted to kick Claude off of it, claiming that his signature was signed on it fraudulently, which is a serious crime, but he'd let it slide if Keith sold him demons. Keith says he felt this was the only decision he could make that would make Claude happy as a demon than a human. Aileen says his weakness is that he doesn't have human allies and that he should make her one of his allies. After the conversation with Keith, Aileen thinks of the two possible outcomes of this. Lilia and Cedric investigate the secret demon trade, find out that Keith is the culprit, then report it to Claude. After that they go to catch Keith in the act and sees Claude kill Keith, and Claude turns into a dragon in a fit of rage and they go into battle with him, killing Claude with the holy sword, reaching the end of the game. Aileen gets frustrated by this because they should Keith's betrayal in his face to destroy him with it and says she hates it with all her heart. Later on she goes on to discuss the plan with all the allies she has brought together. She says she'll use Keith as a trump card, which Keith proceeds to join the conversation as they mention him joking about how the Claude loaned Keith to Aileen without issue and he doesn't even know where the tea leaves are. Isaac says to Aileen that aren't they in the Demon Lord's domain and he can hear them. As they're talking about the plan, Almond comes to inform Aileen that there's an enemy attack and that they are back again. Next scene, it's Claude sitting down with Cedric and Lilia. Claude says that he told them to go back. Cedric say it's no use threatening them and that Lilia is the Holy Sword Maiden. Lilia says Keith is making money by selling demons. Cedric says they could have continued their investigation without telling him, but Lilia. Aileen cuts him off and says his concern is unwanted. Lilia greets Aileen. Aileen responds with that she has told her many times that unless you're close in status you should wait for a higher status person to greet you first. They continue on with the discussion and Cedric says the sale of demons violates the non-aggression pact. Aileen says it doesn't though, which shocks them. Aileen says buying and selling demons is only morally questionable. Lilia say doesn't she feel bad for the demons though. Aileen says, you stay out of this. And that shouldn't she be studying to become the next empress. Lilia starts crying and calls her mean, running away. Keith enters and knees to Claude while saying he has something to tell him, but he wants him to wait until his job with Aileen is complete. Which Claude allows and tells him to prepare himself for when that time comes. In the next scene they are waiting at an ambush point with some captured demons to meet the traitor who Keith was selling the demons to. Aileen says it's just like the game and looks at the spot where Lilia is supposed to be like she was in the game and notices she isn't there. Keith confronts the traitor about having sold the land to Aileen and that they should part ways after he gives him the account book. Beelzebub throws a light in the sky to blind the traitors, then Keith jumps in to steal the book. The traitors attack him and Keith makes swift work of all of them. Then Almond releases the rest of the captured demons. Then they capture the traitors together and turn them over to the knights. Afterwards, Aileen wonders where is Lilia and the knights who were supposed to be waiting in the bushes. Cedric's aide comes running out of nowhere, attacks Keith, knocking him out. Lilia pulls out the holy sword and cuts Beelzebub, saying she only meant to use it as a diversion. Cedric knocks out Aileen and kidnaps her. Keith and Beelzebub return to Claude and tell him that Aileen has been kidnapped by Cedric, and Keith tells Claude that even though Aileen gave him the chance to repent for his crimes of betraying Claude, he still couldn't protect her. Claude tells him to take care of Beelzebub and he know where the tea leaves are, but he just didn't know how to make it. Then he disappears to go after Aileen. Next scene, we're in a room with a captured Aileen strapped to a bed. Cedric says this is the only way he can make the Emperor accept Lilia taking off his clothes and locking the door. Then he covers up her mouth and says he doesn't want Lilia to hear this. Aileen starts thinking about Claude, realizing that she loves him. Almond says he found her to Claude. Claude enters by breaking down the walls in anger, seeing what has happened to Aileen. Claude starts awakening his demon form, making Aileen realize she has become the new trigger for this event. Claude shouts to Lilia to get the holy sword and says that he's becoming a demon like they expected. Aileen realizes this is their plan from the start to make Lilia be recognized as the Empress by slaying Claude in demon form. Claude enters further into his transformation, making Almond quickly break the chains on Aileen. Then Claude fully transforms. Lilia pulls out the holy sword, saying she'll end Claude's sadness, and runs towards him with it. Aileen jumps in the way, taking the blow of the sword. Lilia asks her what is she thinking, the holy sword doesn't work on humans. Aileen tells her she has the blood of the Holy Sword Maiden as well and that she isn't going to let her kill Claude, so she will be taking the sword. Lilia is shocked by this and Aileen tells her that she is the main character, not her. Then she successfully puts the sword inside of her. Aileen limps towards him, joking about taming him in that form, but it'll make their daily life as husband and wife difficult. Then she starts crying and tells him that he has to take responsibility for it, so he should come back to her if he loves her. He turns back after one of her tears fall on him. Watching him turn back to normal makes her realize this was an ending that wasn't in the game one, where it's a happy ending where demons and humans live together peacefully. When he's finished, she is shocked to see him fully naked. Next scene, they are at Eileen's family estate and Claude is checking up on a sleeping Aileen. Her father tells him that she doesn't plan to inform the public about Cedric's actions against them, but in exchange his right to the throne will be reinstated. Claude says he has no interest in the throne. Her father says she has been raised for this from a young age and he doesn't plan to give her to anyone who isn't the emperor. Which makes Claude change his mind. They have a ceremony to officially announce Claude as the new crown prince and Aileen as a candidate for future empress. Aileen accepts. Then Claude picks her up and takes her in the sky with magic and they disappear together with Claude's magic.